Alright, Shalom. I want to begin this lesson by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Basham, Yahweh Shah, Wahar, Rakah, Quadash, which in the ancient Hebrew tongue would be the correct names of the Heavenly Father, His beloved Son, and the Holy Spirit. So I'd like to give double honors to my teachers, the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much due honors and respect to the sincere brethren out there that's also laboring in His work. And as always, I want to say Shalom to the believers, the Akim as well as the Aquath, which will be you brothers along with the sisters that subscribe to this truth as well. So yeah, just wanted to go into another quick lesson, considering the times and seasons we in, which will be a time where truth has finally begun to rest and settle and pretty much take root here on the planet Earth, and the spirit of lies and deception and falsehood, which had dominated the planet Earth under the watch of the so-called white man, is now being overcome, and the source of that truth is found right here within the Holy Scriptures, which serves as somewhat of a light, to unveil the things that's done in the dark, or to reveal, the things that's hidden. And one of those revelations, if you will, would be the unveiling of the devil and Satan that the Bible speaks of, which we found to be none other than the so-called white man, which the scriptures outline, the qualities, if you will, the attributes, down to the instincts of this man. Hey, there's a saying, if it walk, and quack like a duck, then I'd be damned if it's not a duck. See? Well, in this case, the so-called white man, he walks, he reacts, he moves as the dragon, This man speaketh like a dragon, and that's what I wanted to touch on in this lesson, which I want to entitle Drawing Swords, which is an excerpt from the book of Psalms, the 55th chapter, in the 21st verse. It says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Yeah, and this will be concerning the various treaties, that the so-called white man has presented. For an example, with the natives, this man would initiate an agreement, to not transgress, against one another, violate or trespass, concerning the different landmarks. He'll turn right around and break them, man. Which when you go into the history, this man broke over 500 treaties with the natives. Now you might say, well, damn, after the 10th, the 20th, violation, or a breaking of whatever treaty, why would the natives even do business with him? Well, we reading it. Again, it says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. See? So the natives felt almost compelled to go into another agreement with this devil, man. See? Why? Because of his words. And the fact that he came with smooth words. See? The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. Yeah, and we often touch on the idea of this word heart and what it symbolizes. And in this case, the council, the secret council of the so-called white man, these different meetings, these secret meetings where these devils gather, in effort to concoct these elaborate schemes, these strategies against the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American, man. There's no coincidence you got damn Fagos, in your neighborhood. You have access to Doritos and Funyuns, man. That's a well thought out, plan to afflict the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American. The reason why your cholesterol is through the roof, you have high blood pressure, well, it all goes back to the so-called white man. This man has made pork, shrimp, lobster, all these foods that's detestable and unlawful for the children of Israel, where he made them a delicacy, man. That's no coincidence. That's this man waging war against you. See, again, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, dealing with his secret counsels. It says his words were softer than oil, yet were they drawing swords. Yet were they drawing swords. Now with the naked eye, in that face value, when you consider drawing a sword, obviously, that would be concerning you, bringing forth whatever respective weapon you have. But upon further review, when you click on this word, drawn, and scroll a definition for this word, it take you to the Hebrew word patak. Alright? Now the definition for this word patak is to open, to be opened. Now keep this in mind as we move forward in this lesson. But what I wanted to do is go down here to the third definition where it says to carve, engrave, to engrave, to be engraved. Now when you click on this word engrave, one of the words here for this word is to inscribe. Inscribe. See? Inscribe. Now this word inscribe means to write, see, or carve words or symbols on something, especially as a formal or permanent record. See? To write or carve, you know? To inscribe, to inscript. So when the scriptures say that this man was drawing swords, it pretty much translates to his legislations, his laws in place to wage war against the children of Israel. For an example, when you consider the King Afra plan, which pretty much captures, you know, Esau in the form of the so-called white man coming up against his brother Jacob, you know, where the CIA has plotted to, you know, eradicate anyone of so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American descent. You see, you had a Patriot Act, you had a Surveillance Act, you have Rex 84, which gives clearance and jurisdiction to the U.S. government to detain U.S. citizens in the case of a state of emergency, which that's the climate we in. You know, you have certain insiders and whistleblowers that's coming forth concerning these blackouts and how the U.S. government is, you know, preparing to detain who they might deem as resistors to their new world order, you know, and round them up under the banner of a blackout, man. See? Which all goes back to this man drawing swords, setting up different legislations and laws to justify him waging war against you. Now what I did was pulled up a list of these legislations. As you can see here, you have COINTELPRO, which is concerning counterintelligence. You know, you got FEMA, which we all know about these concentration camps, these death camps. You got Main Corps. Now when you go into Main Corps, this is a database dedicated to identifying and targeting those who the U.S. government deem as a threat to national security. See? You have terrorist screening database, which that's eventually going to go into the chip. You know, these devils, you know, is poised to set up a false flag and blame it on terrorists. You know, and to counter that, they're going to say, look, we need to get everybody chipped so we can know who you are. Which this devil, Bill Gates, he came out, he pretty much spilled the beans. He said, we need to know who everybody is on the planet Earth, pretty much. See? So that's going to go into the mark of the beast. But what I wanted to deal with is right here, the Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorist Prevention Act of 2007. See? Homegrown terrorists. So now you have the war on terror being shifted from the Middle East to right here in America. See that? Now it says the Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act of 2007 was a bill sponsored by Representative Jane Harman, all right, a devil. It says in the 110th United States Congress, its stated purpose is to deal with homegrown terrorism, right, which we already know what homegrown terrorism would be. It says in violent radicalization. Now let's click on this word, radicalization. It says it's the process by which an individual or group comes to adopt increasingly radical views in opposition to a political, social, or religious status quo. See? So when these devils kick in your door, all right, and arrest you, bring you up on certain charges, you ask what the hell going on, they say it's going to be based upon these different acts, these legislations that's been signed. See that? And of them is going to be right here. This Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act. See? And this is nothing more than a form of these devil-drawing swords, pretty much setting the stage to wage war against you. And this is well documented throughout the scriptures. See? Which brings me right here to the book of Psalms, the 37th chapter. And the 12th verse, it says, the wicked plotteth against the just. Yeah, and we all know, you should know by now, that the wicked would be none other than the so-called white man. See? The wicked plotteth against the just. And how is this man plotting? Well, in the form of these different congressional meetings, where this man is gathered together, signing off on these legislations and laws, which, by the way, you know nothing about, is done under the shroud of secrecy, you know? Well, it's all an effort to wage war against you. This man is plotting against you, man. Again, it says, the wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. And gnasheth upon him with his teeth. What does it mean when the scriptures say that this devil is eventually going to gnash upon you with his teeth? Well, simply put, this man is going to press upon you with his military being his teeth. Now, with that, where are your teeth found? In your mouth, man. Meaning it's going to be by way of his legislations and his laws, he's going to press upon you with his military. See? Now, in order for you to see this man's teeth, he must first open his mouth, which goes back to the fact that this devil is in the process of drawing swords. Remember, when you go into that word drawing in the Hebrew, it takes you to the Hebrew word patak, which means to open. See that? So we're in a time now where Yahweh Shai is going to allow this devil, for the sake of prophecy, to roll on you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. Okay, we're in a time where this man is poised to press upon you or gnash upon you with his teeth or his military. All right, the military is going to be up close and personal, man. You know? And it's going to be driven, the source of this man coming up against you is going to be by way of his laws and legislations, which he have written in place to justify him waging war against the children of Israel, you know, pretty much starting with the prophets, man. See? So we're in a time now where the so-called white man has begun to rise up against you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is nothing more than that continuation of that struggle in the womb, which is going to be played out by way of this man sending forth his military, or in other words, drawing swords. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that, Lord willing. It was edifying. Till the next time I say shalom.